Hi, my name is Crosby, and the vinyl for today is the Mamas and the Papas Greatest Hits. And the topic is a topic I was really interested in a couple months ago, Mount Everest, and I kind of just wanted to talk about that. So, Phagophobia is defined as a persistent, abnormal, and unwanted fear of coldness, despite conscious understanding by the phobic individual and reassurance by others that there is no danger. It is also known as cryophobia, chemophobia, or chematophobia. The fear of cold seems almost irrational to others, as if there is always a safety net to fall into, but what if there truly wasn't? In instances of things such as people climbing Mount Everest, there is no safety net. There are no heaters, no buildings, no hot chocolate, nothing. There is you, the cold, and a long journey up and down. It's a hard concept to grasp. There is no help. And I mean, the biggest monster might be the unchangeable human sense of selfishness, but as Jacob Geller puts it, the monster might kill them, but the cold will. In 1996, we see a large group of people fighting for their lives in what's known as the 36-hour tragedy. As the clock ticked, more and more died, picking and choosing who can live and who should die. It became prevalent living was a privilege that could be ripped out from under you. 12 hikers and guides passed away, with many of the survivors leaving pieces of themselves at the mountain, succumbing to frostbite and a nasty, unforeseeable blizzard. The cold does so much more than man or object ever could. It is resilient. There is no stopping it, and Michael Groom, a survivor of the incident, says even with his extensive history in extreme weather, having even tumbled down 900 meters in an avalanche, nothing was as intense as this blizzard. One survivor even being left for dead, having been blind and frostbitten beyond recognition. Beck Weathers was a client of Rob Hall and had recently had a radial keratotomy surgery, a surgery that was supposed to help correct his nearsightedness. As he began his climb on Mount Everest, it became apparent that the altitude up on the mountain and the ultraviolet radiation was causing him to go blind, his surgery being far too fresh from the cruel circumstances of the mountain. Upon discovering this, and his condition worsening, Weathers insisted he did not want to descend the mountain just yet, assuming his vision might come back if he was to just wait on the balcony, a part of Everest 27,000 feet high of the total 29,000 feet. He was supposed to wait for guide Rob Hall to pick him up on the way down, but this would never end up happening. As the storm began taking its toll on people silently, Michael Groom assisted Beck down the mountain using a method called short roping. But as the blizzard began to reach them, they became disoriented and could not find the nearby Camp 4. Hours later, during a break in the storm, a rescue team was sent out by fellow expedition guide Anatoly Bukreev, in which saved many climbers' lives, but Beck Weathers was nowhere to be found, presumably lost to the storm as many had been those first few hours. The next day, an unnamed Sherpa sat with Beck Weathers and fellow climber Yasuko Namba. Another client on Rob Hall's team, as well as two Sherpas, went to find Beck and Yasuko, per the directions of the unknown Sherpa. Upon finding them, the assumption was made that the two were near death and unable to be saved, and so they left them there and continued back to Camp 4. Yasuko, having passed away at an unknown time, made the call to leave seem right, until he realized Beck was very much alive and fighting for his life, his only hope being ripped away at the expense of an assumption. This wasn't the end of Beck's story, quite far from it actually. He made a makeshift cover, though his face and hands were exposed, and spent his night there. Once he woke up, he walked in the direction he thought to be Camp 4, still blind and now badly frostbitten. When he finally reached camp, he crawled into a tent and breathed a sigh of relief. The problem? He was so close to death, the climbers at Camp 4 thought he was, and left Beck Weathers to die yet again. Now he suffers from a lack of food and water, the frostbite that caused him to be unable to eat or drink, still blind, and now heavily hallucinating because of altitude sickness. Thankfully, after assaulting multiple shepherds due to these hallucinations, he somehow made it down the mountain for what is now the highest ever medical evaluations performed by helicopter. $65,000 and permanent bodily scars later, and Beck Weathers never even made it to Everest's peak. Could anyone have changed this course of events? How many lives would have been saved if not for, well, what? An aspect that many people like to ignore about the 36-hour tragedy is that it could have been changed, fixed, stopped, and all at the hands of the very tour guides who were supposed to ensure safety. Though he was one of the victims, Rob Hall made the executive decisions that took the lives of 4 people that day. Upwards of 12 people passed away, and all because Rob Hall was competitive and insisted they could reach the peak and back, knowing with the blockages that they wouldn't make it. I don't want to touch on this part too much, speaking that it was mostly a case of weather, but there are very mixed reviews on if it was just weather or if it was the guide's fault. Which now leaves us with the moral dilemma, to live or to die. William S. Burroughs once said, "Nobody owns life, but anyone who can pick up a frying pan owns death." May we add the quote by Fyodor Dostoevsky, "What is hell? I maintain that it is the suffering of being unable to love." To most, the quotes have nothing in common, nor do they with the idea of Mount Everest, but I feel it is so much more than we think. To climb Mount Everest, it not only takes thousands of dollars to prepare, but there's also strict diets and workouts you're suggested to follow in order to be in the best shape possible for your hike. The problem? No matter how much you pay, the experience you get, the amount you learn, nothing truly prepares you for the force and might that the cold brings. It is a selfish condition, forever stuck taking with no giving. It is loveless. So as you prepare to get onto the mountain, you aren't prepared to enjoy a hike with friends and maybe help someone in need if able. You are taught to survive in whatever ways you need. What is hell if not the utter loneliness and torment brought on by the frosty winds of Everest? Every step you take getting closer to the peak, you seem to lose a sense of being with those around you. And as Burroughs stated, nobody owns life. You don't own your life or others. So what does that mean when dealt with such a situation? The rescue group made the decision that there was no need to save Beck and Yasuko, and in turn, Yasuko died and Beck nearly died, her body and many pieces of his own being left under pillowing layers of snow. The group could have saved them, maybe brought them down the mountain with much less hurt, with more of themselves left intact, but the rescue group left them. About 10 feet to safety, to keeping your life, to not losing yourself, to a second chance at making it. Roughly 10 feet. Now, this isn't to villainize the people in said group for leaving the two, nor to chastise Yasuko and Beck for needing help, but to add more understanding of such a hardship. The desperation found at both ends, people wanting to continue to live and love life as if nothing happened, people who had families waiting. All of them had lives to lose. It was just about who was going to lose it first. I want to leave us today with one last quote by Aldous Huxley. "Consistency is contrary to nature, contrary to life. The only completely consistent people are the dead. When it comes to great ventures like climbing Mount Everest, there is no normal days." Much like the normal sunny day in 1996 on that mountain, many assumed it would be as consistent as the last. Not to mention the climbing period for the mountain was much shorter this season than it usually would be. No big deal, normal day. A normal day with normal blockages and normal lines of people and normal winds and normal snowing, to the hikers at least. Many brushed off the concerns of the day because they seemed minor. If you could make it up and down in no time according to many shepherds like Rob Hall, many became too accustomed to how it had always been. I mean, come on, there's no way, right? It's just a little bump in the road, a little storm we can walk through before it gets too bad. And while usually this might be acceptable behavior, the cold has no limits, nor pity. It cares not to give life, only take. Now, in between me being overly poetic, I hope you see the true tragedy in which this event was. The immense trauma these people went through is one that is very far in view. And while it may be on a much bigger scale than any of us can really imagine, I hope we can see it as a lesson. Not only to help others when given the opportunity, but to be mindful of circumstances. Don't let competition get to your head at the expense of other people. Don't let the sun shining distract you from the bone-chilling cold on the mountain. And don't let the storm convince you that you are dying. So yeah, that's my little tidbit on Mount Everest. I hope you all enjoyed today's video. It's a lot shorter than the last and in almost a completely different genre, but I feel it was something that deserved light to be shed on it. I feel like it was a very morally string-pulling situation, and so if you want to reach out to me or comment down below on what you think, I will read and listen to it all. I just really like talking about things that really get you thinking, whether it be a movie or a real-life event. So thank you for watching, and I really hope you enjoyed. Good night!